So, everybody, thank you for joining. This is the third episode of Drugs and Coffee. Today's guest is Flaviu, CEO of Troy Medicare. This is actually our second attempt of doing this. Flaviu, thank you for joining again.
Thank you for having me.
We had a great conversation first time, so I hated the fact that we didn't record half of it. So we're going to make sure everything gets recorded today because it was truly eye-opening for me on some of the things that we talked about. So first, I wanted to kind of give a quick introduction, and you can kind of fill in the gaps. You are the CEO of Troy Medicare, a new Medicare Advantage plan that's coming up. And previously, you had a couple of successful companies that you started. So if you can give me a quick overview of what you've done before, kind of what your background is, so people are more familiar with your background.
Sure. I originally from Romania, but I grew up in Concord, North Carolina, and that's where I went to school as well. And after school, I started this company with a buddy, Matt, who went to pharmacy school at Wingate. And we started Medicare. And some of your listeners might know it's a software platform that pharmacies use to help seniors save money on their medications, oftentimes either finding an alternative cheaper medication or a better plan, Medicare health insurance, for them to save on average $1,200. And so we were fortunate, boots on the ground, started that. We walked into Amina's pharmacy there, I think was on your show as well. It was our first pharmacy we walked into, and she guided us in the right direction. Joe Moose was probably one of the third pharmacy we walked into. It's just fortunate that I grew up in the area that's in a lot of ways a pharmacy innovation center. And since then, we grew that to over 6,000 pharmacies using the software platform, and built relationships with thousands of pharmacy owners across America, and really became very passionate about the industry and a lot of the unfairness happening in this industry with payers and PBMs. So that led me to started Troy Medicare about a year and a half ago, because we just felt, you see these mergers, right? Like CVS and Aetna and Express Scripts and Cigna, and there's just fewer and fewer plan options that are treating pharmacies worse and worse each year. And that's just not okay. Looking at it, we just said, look, we got to be able to do something about this. We have the technology, the data, the pharmacy network of thousands of pharmacies that are independent pharmacies that are getting crushed by these big plans and chains. And so we started Troy Medicare to be that pharmacy-friendly Medicare Advantage plan, or an actual health insurance company that we like to tell people we're the health insurance company that doesn't suck, because everybody hates their health insurance. It's just ridiculous that these folks control our destiny, and nobody likes them, especially folks filling our prescriptions, doctors taking care of patients. So we built that option to be a little friendlier, to be transparent, to do it right.
Yes. So just want to kind of give everybody, some people that might not know, they're not familiar with iMedicare. I just want to kind of go a little bit back and explain a couple of points. By profession, you're more like a programmer, kind of developer, correct?
Yeah,
you had business background.
Well, I grew up and just like to hack around, program different things, and I went to school for economics, and so that gave me more of a business insight. And I worked for University of North Carolina at Charlotte as my title was a business and technology applications analyst. So kind of combining the two has been always what I really enjoy. And so when I started at Medicare, I was more the tech guy, and Matt was the pharmacist. But it's funny, over the years, he actually also was programming as well, and he became much better than me at the technical side and the programming.
You kind of flipped the roles, huh?
Yeah, and I became much more interested in the business side of healthcare, and like I mentioned before, sort of the injustices that are happening on that side and fixing them. So in a lot of ways, we
So,
swapped roles. Yeah.
so the iMedicare just was kind of improved the user experience for the pharmacist trying to help patients sign up for Medicare plans, and just kind of give them a quick overview of what your cost is going to be, what's covered, what's not covered. So that was the benefit of iMedicare, right? And it continues
Yeah.
to be. So
It's just so complicated, gosh, for anybody, especially for a senior, right? And there's a lot of options. Even though there's few companies, there's a lot of options. So for example, sure, you only have 5 companies that control it all, but each company, like United, has 5 or 6 different plans for a given area. So it's like you choose the premium or the basics or the enhanced, and each one has a different coverage of the medications, different copays, different deductible. Then with Medicare, you go in the donut hole, you get out of the donut hole. It just becomes very difficult for someone to figure it out. And pharmacists are in a great place to do that because folks trust their pharmacists more than any other provider, healthcare provider, and certainly more than brokers. They see them almost every week, so there's a big relationship there. And what people don't realize is the biggest variable in determining your plan is your medications, because that's really the one predictable variable. It's hard to say if you're going to go in the hospital next year, right? But you can know that if you're on 6 maintenance medications today, you'll probably be on those 6 the next year. And so your medications in a lot of ways determine what you're going to pay for your plan. And a pharmacist is in a really good position to know, like, oh gosh, looks like you're on Humalog and your plan doesn't cover it, but if we switch you maybe to Novolog, your plan would, and it'd save you thousands of dollars over the course of a year. A pharmacist is able to do that, where honestly even a doctor might not know all the brands and alternatives and substitutes.
I mean, I personally remember when Medicare kind of rolled out the whole Part D, which kind of tells you how long I've been a pharmacist. So, I mean, I remember how confusing it was for everybody. I mean, there was a donut hole. What is that? Even the pharmacist. And people were coming to us asking us about it. You know, it was really difficult. So I completely understand the whole iMedicare point. And we're talking like now years later. And of course, people are still confused about insurance.
Absolutely. So, and then you throw on top of that sorry to interrupt, but there's a whole aspect of the happening on the pharmacy side. Some of your listeners might know about DIR fees, direct and indirect remuneration, which are these clawbacks that insurance takes back from the pharmacy after point of sale. So basically what ends up happening is folks don't know what the price of a medication is going to be when they go to a pharmacy. They don't know what they're going to pay. And the pharmacists, they don't know what they're going to get paid. And it's a little bit of a black box that nobody except this, like, black box somewhere in the insurer, the PBM knows. And it's just ridiculous.
Right. No, I mean, it definitely is a confusing time to be in the healthcare business. It's progressively getting more and more confusing. And so it seems like this was kind of a natural progression for you to go from iMedicare, where you saw all the issues people kind of running into, because you were looking at it from a different perspective, from the data and from just the generally kind of how the flow goes. Now you're progressing into, okay, I need to fix this. So Troy Medicare seems like a very natural progression to that. So how did it all start? I mean, again, you woke up one day and said, I'm starting a Medicare plan?
Oh, no. So that's the funny thing. It's been years in the making. Look, from years ago, we always thought, gosh, there's just got to be a better plan. Like, so every chain seems to have a plan, right? Walmart has Humana, Walgreens has United Health ARP, CVS, obviously, and Aetna are now one company. And so the independent folks and even the small mid-sized chains don't have anybody. And in fact, the plans that are actively in the market are trying to take away their business. If you're on Aetna and you go to CVS and you fill a statin for your copay, say, is $3, when you get home, Aetna's going to give you a call and say, hey, Marco, you instead of going to a Mina's pharmacy, if you go to CVS, your copay is only going to be $1. Or heck, we can just ship it to you from mail order for free. And so a lot of folks leave their independence and gosh, it's a lot cheaper to go there. And so these plans are actively trying to take away business from the independents. And it's just the fact that, when I started at Medicare, everybody told me, well, aren't independents going to die soon anyway, because of what I just talked about, or because of Express Scripts. And so right now we're starting Troy, and everybody's, again, investors are telling me, aren't independents going to die soon? Isn't Amazon and PillPack going to put these guys out of business? And yet over the course of this decade, independents have stayed at about 21,000 independents, plus another 10,000 kind of mid-sized groceries and chains. So half the market are these folks, and have stayed pretty consistent. Why is that? You know what I mean? How are they managing to stay a third of the market with everybody literally in the healthcare system trying to put them out of business? You know what I mean? Right. And the answers, they really do provide such a higher value of service and personal touch to these folks, their patients, their communities, that oftentimes seniors are willing to pay a little more. They're willing to go to independent because they provide, not only free delivery, but they might have a driver that does a basic health assessment. You talk to Mina, the things she does in her community. Josh, one of my partners, recently helped replace the floors in the home of a senior, right? They strip, package, blister package, they compound, they flavor. There's just so many aspects of healthcare that are so personal that CVS would never do.
Pharmacies itself and the whole kind of landscape is changing, and it's been changing. And I kind of hear from different conversations from different people, different pharmacists. They all have their opinions. I mean, my general opinion about the pharmacy field right now is that it's competition, and some players in the field have more power, so clearly their voice is going to be the loudest. So really what the reason why I'm excited about Troy Medicare is the fact that you're giving voice, giving power to the small players in the field, and giving them chance to do and bill what the services they actually provide. So that's the part that makes sense to me.
Exactly.
So just to I like to kind of give this example just to explain pharmacy business currently independent. As you kind of like a business owner, you will buy something at X amount of dollars, and then you sell it at Y, and you take the difference, and that's the business. Everybody does that, and that's how you make profit. In the pharmacy world, independent, it's very different. You don't really know. You know what you buy the drug, what your cost is, but you don't know really what you're going to sell it at, because you mentioned the DIR fees and different aspects of different companies. So can you kind of explain that piece and how you guys with Troy Medicare are improving that?
Absolutely. So right now, you often get paid. So contracts for brand name medications are usually based off of AWP, which is average wholesale price, which people can look up. There's a whole issue of people fixing that and not being the average wholesale price. And so it's often AWP minus 15%, 17% that brand name will get reimbursed at. And then generics, which is the most popular by volume, they're reimbursed at what's called the MAC, which is the maximal allowable cost list, which is basically just a spreadsheet somewhere at a PBM, which is a pharmacy benefit manager that administers the pharmacy benefit on behalf of an insurer of a plan. And so what they do is they literally have this Excel sheet somewhere that determines each day, sometimes multiple times a day, what the price of a generic medication is. And nobody gets to know that. So that's there's even lawsuits right now trying to expose what is the MAC list. And and sort of PBMs treat it as a trade secret, like a Coca-Cola recipe, so they can't share it with anybody. This is the price of a medication. And so on top of that, so you would think, okay, when you reach the pharmacy and you show your insurance card and the pharmacy bills it, then at that point, what was that AWP discount price for a brand, or the MAC price for a generic. So you might think, okay, that's the price. And it is for the patient whose copay might be $2, or it might be a percentage of the total, like a 20% copay. But for the pharmacist, the story doesn't end there, because sure, they might get paid, let's call it on a $100 medication. The copay for a patient, let's say, is 20%. So the patient pays $20, and the insurance, again, said it's $100. So the pharmacy is now expecting $80 from the insurer. Let's say they bought that drug for, I don't know, $90. So there's the $10 profit. They're getting the $80 from the insurance maybe in 2 weeks. So I think, oh, great, they made $10. But as you said, there's these clawbacks, these DIR fees we mentioned before, that are established fairly liberally by PBMs on how they want to track whether some metrics in aggregate or in one. But long story short is 3 months, 6 months down the line, the pharmacy might look at their bank account and see $20,000 leave their account. And they're wondering, like, what is that for? And it turns out that there was a fee for each of these prescriptions they filled over the last 6 months that now they're going to take back, let's say, out of that $80. The insurer, the PBM decided they're going to take back 50 of those. So now the pharmacy, instead of making $10, they're losing 40 on that prescription. And they didn't even know that they were going to lose it until 6 months later, right? So you're constantly living in this, in the dark. You're running this business as a pharmacy.
The money they already spent, right?
Exactly.
Right. No, so you're
Oh,
pretty
so
much.
how are we so what we're doing is that, you know what, we got to make this transparent, and so we're using NADAC, which is the National Average Drug Acquisition Cost. It's a standard set by Medicaid, as state Medicaid budgets were getting blown up by this practice and other practices like spread pricing from PBMs. So Medicaid enacted this benefit that this pricing that's published every week based on statistically significant surveys across the country of what drugs are being purchased at pharmacies. So that way it's published every week and everybody knows here's the prices, and they're pretty close to what a pharmacy buys a drug at. And most importantly, they're transparent. So now a patient knows what the price of a med is. The pharmacy knows they're going to get paid. We don't have any DIR fees. We don't have any mail order option on our plan. And on top of that, instead of, this is a big thing, instead of all these reimbursements being reimbursement minus, like we talked about, AWP minus, MAC minus, we're the only one that's cost plus. So it's NADAC plus. And that's a $10 dispensing fee for generics and a $4 dispensing fee for brands, which incentivize generics, which is what I think should be. What you get today is a lot of PBMs prefer brands to generics because the rebate dollars are greater on brands. So they actually make more money on a brand than on generic. Whereas that just doesn't make sense. When you have generics available, we think we should incentivize the use of generics and save money for the system.
Right.
So that's how we differ in our pricing model, how we incentivize generics, how we don't have DIRs, and we have a preferred network of independent pharmacies, and chain is non-preferred. So kind of the opposite. We talked about with Aetna previously, how they might call you push you to CVS. We're the only ones to have independence in a preferred network. Chain is non-preferred. In fact, we're the only, how on your health plan, health insurance card, you have your PCP assigned, like Dr. Johnson's your primary care doc. Well, we're the first plan to also assign you to a pharmacy. So your pharmacy is Amina's pharmacy, RX Clinic, and that's where it is. That's where you go. That's your pharmacy. And on the flip side, Amina's now in charge of taking care of your health. So she's on the hook if, God forbid you end up in the hospital, you get discharged. Well, the first thing we say, as soon as you get out, we need Amina to come over to your house, reconcile your meds, make sure you're good to go, to make sure you don't end up back in the hospital a week later. So and we reimburse pharmacies for that. And we could go into how how we do that. But that's the idea.
And on the flip side, this saves you costs for another hospitalization or adjustment of meds, whatever the case is.
Absolutely. That's huge, because right now you have Medicare Part D separated. You have the drug side separated from the health side, which makes no sense, right? If drugs are a part of your health, you can't separate drugs and health. And so that's why we built a Medicare Advantage plan, for the reason you just said, because a Medicare Advantage plan is a full HMO that covers everything: the drugs, the doctor's appointment, hospital visit, labs, the whole lot. And so now, if Amina helps save $10,000 hospitalization for a patient, well, we can turn around and share those savings with the pharmacy, and no plan in the country is doing that right now.
Excellent. So the NADAC plus the fee, that's the basic just for the dispensing. Now, on top of that, you're also paying these pharmacies for the clinical services that you mentioned, correct?
Yeah, and this is important, right? We thing is, other plans spend a tremendous amount of money. The biggest item on their cost is acquiring members. They spend money on insurance brokers, but also on TV ads, Google ads, Facebook ads. If you're alive and walking the streets in October, you will see a Medicare Advantage ad every few minutes, because it's everywhere. And so we don't do that. We instead reallocate that money towards spending on actual care for the patient through the pharmacy and through the primary care doc. But for the pharmacy, we pay them starting at $30 per member per month, which is a significant amount, right? If you have, on average, say 1,000 Medicare patients, that's $30,000 a month. That's $360,000 a year for a lot of clinical services that these folks, the independents, like the CPSN network, which you can talk about, they're already doing. So we're talking about performing a e-care plan every month to make sure, and these are kind of a care coordination plan each month to see where the patient's at, not just reconcile their meds, but also their health side, provided we as a plan can provide some of the doctor's data, the doctor notes and claims, they've been to the hospital, their lab results recently. They might pick up their insulin, but we have the lab results to show where is their blood sugar actually at, because maybe they're on the wrong insulin, or maybe they're not taking it for a reason that it's unclear. And so these can be addressed each month in an e-care plan with their pharmacist. In exchange for them doing that and taking care of the patient's health, we reimburse them significantly. Like for an MTM, I think a pharmacy gets paid $20-$30 a year, right? So this is 12 times more than that.
Right. I mean, and when I think about it now, okay, you're giving this fair pricing. I'm just kind of looking now, thinking as an owner of a pharmacy. So you're giving this fair pricing for the drug. So I know I'm not going to lose money there. So, I'm fine. Then on top of that, I have this opportunity to make more money, hire more people, provide service, clinical service, on top of the dispensing. So you give this sense of security, so you can actually plan. Like in any business, the best thing you can get is kind of predictability. If you can get that, then you're right. You can plan. But so this kind of gives you that kind of starting point where okay, I know if I do X, I will definitely get Y. And that's huge. Then you can focus on actually improving clinical services and growing your business.
Look, the future isn't filling prescriptions. As I think a lot of folks, even folks I talk to at other health plans, investors think pharmacies are just there to fill prescriptions, count pills and put them in a bottle. And that's just not the future. And in fact, somebody told me recently that, well, we want them to take more prescriptions means they're healthier. It's like, gosh, well, I don't know if that's necessarily the case. It's not necessarily more prescriptions that's always the answer. Yet our current business model for healthcare, the only way a pharmacy gets paid is through more prescriptions. So just like fee for service in the hospital gets paid by more services. And we know that that's not the right way to do things. Right. So for the pharmacy, the future is not filling more prescriptions, but it is these clinical services getting paid for actual care and value.
diversifying the portfolio of services you provide as a pharmacy is really the key. I mean, you mentioned, different things, reconciliation of the med lists and making sure the patients have everything they need to be successful. So to me, that's the key, is really diversify your business as a pharmacy. And this helps. I mean, this definitely helps because you're just giving them opportunity to do it. Now, as far as kind of you're banking on the fact that these network pharmacies will provide what they need to provide. So I'm assuming there will be some way of monitoring that, how it's done. Are you going to include a small number of pharmacies to begin with and kind of grow from there?
Yeah, and we want to leverage what's already been done in this arena through CPESN, is called the Clinical Pharmacy Enhanced Services Network, and it's a network nationwide of pharmacies that do provide these sort of extra services, like I mentioned, and they build a network of these high-performing pharmacies. They also build the tech infrastructure through the e-care plan I mentioned, which is on a HL7 standard. Many software systems have already adopted it, so that way pharmacies can document these actions uniformly and consistently across pharmacies and states and areas, and report it uniformly to CPESN. And so we've signed a contract with CPESN to distribute the payment and provide the documentation. So we really wanted to empower them, as that is their focus, to do that and grow the network and bring more pharmacies on board. We wanted to really empower them, because for us, success doesn't just mean our plan is successful and everybody else fails, right? We're talking healthcare is 20% of our GDP. Medicare Advantage is going to be $1 trillion industry soon. It's not all going to be us. So our success is really, really demonstrating that this works, and then other plans copying us. Nothing would make us happier than to see CVS Aetna say, gosh, these guys at Troy are having so much luck doing these clinical services. We got to adopt to do that too. We got to start paying pharmacies to do these services. Heck, CVS has got to turn around and provide these services that they weren't before. I think if we can get there, that just would be a tremendous change in healthcare. So again, we don't just want to be like a zero-sum game where we win, but rather inspire the future for others too.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of just took the word out of my mouth. I was about to say you kind of seems like you're out there to prove that this model will work and it can actually benefit and change things.
See, nobody's ever proven it, and when I talk to folks, they just don't believe. Just this morning, I had a big venture capital firm, won't name who it is, several $billion venture firm, said they just honestly don't think a pharmacy can do these things. They just don't think it can happen. And so that's 99% of people in the country believe that. And we don't, because we see it firsthand with our pharmacists. It's just that they're individuals and don't have a voice. So it takes proving it. And I think once the people start seeing the results, they'll be so impressed that the ROI on a $30 investment in a pharmacy on the health side will pay dividends, because those same plans right now are paying more than that amount for a call center in Minnesota to call patients in North Carolina and try to manage their care. Ask them why they're not taking their drugs.
Acquisition of one member, it's through the roof. I mean, as you said, you're spending so much dollars just to marketing to acquire one member versus managing the existing members better, right?
Yeah, they manage them with strangers. And if we know anything in healthcare, you can't have strangers do it. It's so much dependent on relationships and trust that even if it's the smartest person in the world, if it's a stranger giving me a call and telling me what to do about my healthcare, I'm just not going to be as receptive to that as I am with the pharmacist or the doctor I've been seeing for 20 years.
Now, who are the believers in this plan right now? I mean, who are your investors? I mean, who are your main players?
Well, the folks, it's a great point. It's honestly a lot of the pharmacy owners that I've known over the years, and like Amina that I mentioned, Joe Moose, and 80 other different investors. Most of them are pharmacy owners and a few physicians that are just so excited by this plan coming to their area, that they invest a small amount of money each, and those are the folks that have invested so far, and we're excited because this whole started out of the independent pharmacy movement, and so it was important to me and to Josh, my partner, who's a pharmacy owner in Concord, North Carolina. It's important to us to get as many independent folks that want to invest to be a part of it, because we want them to win, not just obviously with what you mentioned, the drug reimbursement, the clinical performance, but by investing, they also win as an investor in the plan as this plan succeeds. So we wanted to give opportunity to folks that are able to do that, to do so.
Awesome. All righty. Yeah, so future seems interesting for you. I mean, it's going to be busy. You have October 15 coming up quickly. So you guys are pretty much, that's going to be your first enrollment. That is, I'm correct, right? I mean, all the approvals are in. You're just waiting for the October 15th.
Yeah, we tell people we were the leanest Medicare plan that's ever been launched, because we've done with a fraction of a cost of what other Medicare plans have done, gotten this far to get licensed by the North Carolina Department of Insurance, to get CMS approval to offer our plan, and they approved our formulary and bid design. This whole piece we talked about, the $30, the NADAC, all of those pieces have been reviewed and approved by CMS to go forward in North Carolina, this open enrollment, and test out the model. We still wanted to start small to prove out the model, not to get ahead of our skis and ahead of ourselves with a minimum amount of money.
Are you only launching in limited numbers of counties, right?
Yeah, we're launching in 4 counties in North Carolina, and then expanding from there, not just in North Carolina, but outside of North Carolina, really based on the folks that have invested, that have supported us. Some natural extensions are, we have some hospital contracts that might have a few locations in North Carolina, but a bunch of others in Tennessee or South Carolina. So that is a natural place to go next as well. But really once you kind of prove the model in one state, it becomes a lot easier to put more wood on the fire and expand faster.
Hey, sounds good. So if people want to find out more about you and Troy Medicare, where should they go?
Yeah, they can go to troymedicare.com, and certainly they can email me for more information. Happy to share. I'm Flaviu, Flaviu, at troymedicare.com. So I'd appreciate it.
Okay, and I will definitely include all that in the notes for this podcast. Thank you again. I mean, we did a quick overview. I think we kind of hit the major points, so people understand, and they can definitely look or email you about more information they have. We will keep in touch. And for everybody else, thank you for joining another episode. Please like our page, go to our website, drugsandcoffee.com, sign up for our newsletter. We have YouTube channel. You can definitely follow us there. We have more episodes like this coming. And again, if you have any suggestions, any people you need us to talk to because they're doing awesome things in pharmacy, please email us. Flaviu, thank you so much, and we'll keep in touch.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.